There's no way to do it right.
Yeah.
This whole parenting thing. And so we do just have to get comfortable in wondering and fantasizing about how they're going to remind us that we got it wrong.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sure you're living that.
For people who don't know, Big Mouth is a very singular show, even in the world of bizarre animated adult shows. It's still incredibly unique. Can you tell our audience who may not have binge watched up through season 4 of Big Mouth what it's about?
Yeah.
And the ways in which it is kind of meaningful. We know that you can talk about the dirty part, but also the part of it that is kind of meaningful to you and important to you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very emotional, very dirty animated show about kids who are 13, 14 going through puberty, falling in love for the first time, figuring out how to... We speak with this sex educator named Shafia Zaloom, who works up in the Bay Area, who's amazing. We talk to her all the time, and what she always talks about is being a sexual person with integrity. And I think in many ways that's kind of what these kids are figuring out is, and the way Andrew, the character based on me, puts it in season 2 is like, can I be horny and still be a good guy? Mm-hmm. To me, that is one of the real central questions of the show is, can you be horny and be a good person? How do you navigate that? And I think also one thing that we found really meaningful, and it was especially when we brought in this character that David Thewlis plays so beautifully called the Shame Wizard. The show is very much about shame and about talking about the things that we usually don't talk about. Because when you don't talk about puberty or sexuality with kids, the message is that there's something wrong with it. It's shameful. It can't be spoken. And so they feel like they're the only ones going through it and they're alone and that there's something wrong with them. And I think for me, the show is very much about dispelling that feeling.
And where does the Shame Wizard in your journey of puberty, where would the Shame Wizard kind of appear over your shoulder and what kinds of experiences?
I think it was, and it's like what happens with Andrew in season 2, where it's like, I'm an out of control masturbator. There's something wrong with me. And I think part of it was that nobody really talked about it, and I'm doing this secret thing, and it must be so bad if nobody's talking about it. And I think that was a big part of where the Shame Wizard came from. It was kind of after season 1. At one point, I was like, I think the hormone monsters and the hormone monsters in the show are really kind of the personification of the kids' ids, who urge them to screw and fight, or and have those kind of violent or horny feelings. And I was like, I feel like he needs a nemesis, and it feels like that the nemesis is shame. And then Nick was kind of the one who was like, yeah, but it's not a monster shame. It's more of a wizard. It's more clever. It kind of burrows its way in and kind of comes in sideways and really tricks you into shaming yourself.
So if you were going to go back to the Andrew of puberty, mm-hmm. What is it that an adult in your life, a parent, a coach, somebody who you trusted, what is it that they could have said to you that would have either kept the Shame Wizard at bay or maybe even prevented the Shame Wizard from being in your life at that time?
Well, I think at least like with our kids, like we just introduced the idea that masturbation exists and it's okay to touch your genitals to make yourself feel good. And I think just by presenting it as something that is there and exists, hopefully makes them feel on some level less shame. But I think it's hard because I think that we're kind of working against a whole society that has, evolved over hundreds or thousands of years, and I think that it's uncomfortable to talk about. And I think so much of of the kind of thing of like, don't talk to your kids about it is in some ways selfish, because it's easier to not have these conversations that make you uncomfortable. So I think you're really, working against a whole society that has a slightly different agenda.
You talk about shame, but I think it's important to distinguish embarrassment from shame.
Sure.
Right?
Yeah.
So when you talk to your kids about masturbation or any number of topics,
Yeah.
they may be embarrassed by
Yeah.
the conversation, right? They might
Yeah.
feel uncomfortable or awkward.
Yeah.
But that's completely different from shame.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah, and guilt and shame.
Right.
That feeling of like guilt is, oh, I did something wrong. Shame is I
Right.
am wrong.
Right. And I've always felt that as parents, one of the greatest things we can do in conversation with our kids is push it to the point of maybe a little bit of embarrassment, because then you know you're kind of done with the conversation.
Yeah.
And never let in the shame piece. I mean, that's
Right.
really, right? That's the balance. So I
Yeah.
feel like that's one of the things that Big Mouth has accomplished, is identifying the difference and
Yeah.
helping kids have language around the difference, which is huge.